My name is Martin Madert with the Witness to War Foundation. It's September 17th, 2023, and we're in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'm back with Mike Pipkin, P-I-P-K-I-N, served in the Vietnam War in the United States Navy, attached to the 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, Fox Company. How are you doing today, Mike?
Fine, thank you.
Glad to hear it. I appreciate you coming back to join me. My first question today is, where are you from originally?
I was born in Seattle, Washington, at a naval air station there. My father was career Navy. He was a pharmacist mate, like corpsman. And I went to school in Seattle. And then when I graduated in '66, I joined the Navy.
That was joining the service something you'd always thought about doing growing up, or do you have any other ambitions?
Well, it was not really, And draft board was chasing me. So I thought the Navy would be good.
Did you intend on being a corpsman when you enlisted, or did you have...
Well, I wanted to be a mechanic, but corpsmen were a critical rating at the time. And when we were at boot camp, we signed up for different classes. And he says, well, how would you like to be a corpsman? And I said, well, my dad was a corpsman. I'll give it a try. And that was the start.
How'd your dad feel about it?
Oh, I'm sure he's very proud. My father was, and I didn't really get along, and he was a Navy chief most of his life, So we had different points of view, but he never really said anything. Like when I left for Vietnam, all he did was shake my hand, and I guess that was all we needed. And but he had two tours off of the Vietnam coast on the Riscity aircraft carrier, and they caught on fire out there, and they brought it into San Francisco. So when I graduated from boot camp, I went up to San Francisco at the shipyard, and I spent a week in the chief's quarters. And I think he wanted me to continue my career. But then I went back to Balboa and went to Corps School in '67. And then we went to Field Med Service School at Camp Pendleton. That was in the summer of '67. And then I was transferred back to Balboa Naval Hospital, San Diego, and I worked there in the emergency room, and then I got emergency orders to Vietnam. And
well, during all your training in the war in Vietnam, really got pretty high. What did you know and think about Vietnam when you were going through all this training?
Well, the way it is, you're in a slot. You're on the trail to Vietnam. You're going to Nam, and you just get used to it. And I was kind of curious about war, and so I went out of curiosity, not out of fear.
So '67, you get your orders. Approximately when was it you arrived in Vietnam?
It was actually, I didn't get my orders until '68.
Okay. So
that was, must have been February. And then I took a 30-day leave, and then I come home. And
so it sounds like the emergency orders were 10 offensive related.
Yes, because we lost so many corpsmen. And so I went, followed my orders and got there. And we staged at Da Nang. And then I had orders for 2-1 to go up to Khe Sanh. And so I had 4 corpsmen I come over with. And the 4 of us went up to Khe Sanh. And 2 of them went to a hotel company. I went to Fox Company. And I'm not sure where the 3rd one went to. Oh, can't remember where the 4th went to. And we got there in May, 1st of May. Battalion did a couple battalion-size inserts because, there's a lot of enemy out there. And we went up to Hill 881 north, and we headed up further, and then we swept down to the base. And then through radio intercepts, they found out that the NVA were stalking us. They wanted to get us really bad. And we did a 36-hour forced march back to the base. And all this time, all of Vietnam had blown up in, they call it the Spring Offensive, or the Mini Tet, or Bloody May. And we didn't know any of this, It was just another day. And so we were doing some patrolling around the base, and they had convoys starting to go up and down. The road had been closed for almost a year by the NVA, and we had a chance to ride the convoy, and everybody was happy.
So you were saying the road had been closed for the better part of a year by the NVA, and they have convoys moving up and down in that way.
Just starting, and a Gulf company usually took the convoy and the security, and for some reason they decided to give it to Fox. And so we had one platoon on the road sweep for mine, one platoon for convoy security, and a platoon in the rear. So the road sweep went out, and they ran into an ambush. Supposedly about 300 NVA. They picked it up on radar the night before that there was a lot of movement. So why they sent us? Well, anyway, they sent us out there, and the convoy, we were about 300 feet or yards from the main base, and the minesweep got into a lot of trouble, and we were staged right at the gate on trucks, and we got off and we ran down to the site. And then we, everything. Yeah. So at the end, we were, everybody was low on ammunition, and we didn't get any relief out there. And finally, we got some relief towards the end. And
in what form?
Another company came out. The base commanders were afraid that the NVA were going to take the base because the French peace talks were just starting, and I'm sure they thought they could get some leverage. Okay. So they, all said and done, we had 15 KIA and about 40 wounded. All the tankers were wounded. And so we got them back to the base. And
it's you and how many other corpsmen out there?
There must have been, well, I'm not sure, because they probably had 4 corpsmen from our other platoon, and they probably had 4 corpsmen from Gulf Company. And so I don't know, it was a confusion. It's just confusion. They were able to come out with a little mighty might and pick up the wounded and take them in. And we were in a position where we couldn't move, because we were holding the line, They were hand-to-hand fighting and all this stuff. These guys wanted to come in.
When it's like that, it's hard to get air support or artillery in.
Yes, and with Vietnam all exploding, I'm sure everybody was engaged, and there was yeah, So we had ammunition brought out to us. We're all low on ammunition, and because of the confusion, we went back at night. We had, I don't know if Gulf stayed out there that night or not, but we went back that morning. And that next morning, they shipped us out to Hill 471, which was kind of like over here. And we kind of regrouped out there. And we never really talked about the whole situation. So it was just become another day.
War.
Yeah, it's war. It's just, you're in Vietnam now. So, so we were at Khe Sanh, and it was kind of winding down, but not really. And we did some tank patrols down the road, and then we started tearing down the base, tearing it so that NVA couldn't use anything. And then we walked out at night on July 7th. And that was kind of a freaky, we had gunships flying over and ready to do everything. And then we went to Quang Tree, and we were running patrols. And then we kind of all regrouped on the Qua Viet River. And we were at this little town that's been destroyed. It had been destroyed the previous May, in a mini Tet. And we were running patrols in there. And then we had a little patrol base we'd go out to and stay for 2 weeks. And we made a dummy 105 artillery piece out of logs, and then we started getting incoming from across the DMZ, and so anyway, so that was fun. In a way, it was funny, no one got hurt, but it was funny, wartime humor.
The gallows humor is hard to avoid.
Yes, and then we took up in the DMZ, they had 30 lights they'd see at night over the Ben Ha River. They'd see these lights and they didn't know what it was. And they decided to send us up there to check it out. And the night before, they arc lit the place. The B-52s just bombed the hell out of everything. And they sent us in. We took a lot of incoming when we landed, and then we marched up the Ben Ha River towards the ocean and checked everything out. And like I said, everything was blowing up, so we couldn't find anything anyway. And we're going to pull out that afternoon, and we had these helicopters coming in, and they got about 3 companies of men out. And then the choppers we were supposed to go on, the damn thing is coming in. I don't know what it was, because you didn't hear any incoming, you didn't hear anything, but he blew up in the air. So the pilot section landed here, and the pilots got out and they ran into the jungle, stunned. And the 2 crewmen, there's 3 in the back, so it was the 2 gunners basically landed in my lap, and the crew chief went, the back end in flames went whoosh, and he was up there, he was missing in action, and one of my squad leader he got blown up. I guess it was a mine, but whatever, but he was missing in action, KIA possibly. And then, so the two gunners basically died on my watch, and losing a guy MIA on my watch was quite a experience.
And so it sounds like there's really nothing you could have done for
No, but you still feel the guilt, The Marines love the corpsmen, the younger ones anyway. They thought we were do miracles, and of course not. But then we moved to a hilltop for the night because everybody in the world knew where we were because we had the column of smoke and all the action. And we stayed that night, and you could see recon helicopters in with a searchlight looking for the pilots. And they finally found the pilots. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Just go ahead and put that on silent.
And so that next morning we had to get out of there. And they wouldn't send choppers up to pick us up. So we started walking. We were carrying the dead and wounded. And we walked and walked and walked until we got to a place that they thought was safe to pick us up. And then we boarded choppers, went back to Quaviet, and then we went back to Da Nang, where we were before Tet. The Operation Checkerboard, they brought 40 battalions up north because Westmoreland thought they were coming over the DMZ. And then, so we get around Da Nang, south of Da Nang, in Marble Mountain, and it was a little camp, and that's where I got scared because we were fighting civilians. Basically, you couldn't tell who it was. They were all civilian clothes, and they had enormous amounts of booby traps, and they scared me because you couldn't hear them until they went off. And they were just destroying legs and arms. And right through the wire where we go out, there'd be 20 boots that people throw out there to say, it's a bad area to be careful. And so we were out there and we were fighting the civilians. And you had snipers. And we didn't have any really big contact, but we ran into all these booby traps. They were just, we'd walk in each other's footsteps. And we were out on patrol one day, and a Marine rushed by me. And I probably set off the booby trap that was for me. But it blew his leg off, and he was screaming. He was like, I want to die, I want to die, I want to die. And so that was kind of traumatic. And then we got a medevac down. And the funny thing is, about 8 years later, when I was in civilian life, I crushed my leg, and they almost cut it off. The doctor said, well, they can always cut it off. And I thought maybe that was karma or something, missing my booby trap. But so anyway, I got kind of, it was pretty scary,
After the explosion, did the heat cauterize that wound?
No, it was a low explosive with a Chi-Com. They make them in with gunpowder. It was just enough to just shred it all the way up to the knee, and the foot was just hanging by. I probably should have cut the foot off, hanging by a tendon, but maybe they could save it. But I never heard it from them. About them. You go in the rear and you never hear. And so that got me kind of scared. And by that time, my tour was up. And I went to battalion aid station for a month. And then I went to 1st Med Battalion for my last probably 5 months. And in Tet, 69, I volunteered to ride the Cracker Box ambulance, so we were running through Da Nang and picking up the wounded and going back. And we went up to first division headquarters where they had hit and bringing wounded back. Then the next day we went up and started hauling the dead back. And at 1st Med Battalion, the dead were just piled up all over the place. And then things kind of slowed down, and I finished my tour and went back to the States. So,
tell me about your homecoming. What was it like getting back to the war?
Well, it was kind of sucked because I was a survivor. I come back a survivor, and of course, my flight into Seattle was, of course, I was on Vietnamese time, and they were on American time, and so I come in a day early, and so everybody rushed around to come out and get me. So it was kind of sad, I come back a survivor. We come back survivors, at least a pat in the back, but I had a lot of bad PTSD, so I used to shake. Like a leaf when I start talking. So I'm shaking inside, but I'm doing a lot better. So I had a year and a half left in the Navy, and that was probably the hardest part of my career because I wanted to get out and move on. And so I finished it up and got up, but
what did you do after?
Well, I kind of knocked around for about 2 years. Yeah, like I said, I had full-blown PTSD. I didn't tell anybody in the Navy about that because I just wanted to get out. And then I met my wife, and she was very, very supportive, and she probably turned everything around for me, And so we're still married. Any other woman would have left me, I probably could have gone through 4 or 5 wives, but she stuck through,
That's an impressive woman.
Yes, it is. Very impressive. And so I went to junior college and did a structural engineering course to be an engineering aide. And then I worked for a geotechnical consultant. And then the economy went down, and so I moved back to Seattle and worked for a marine supply, which is a fishery supply for Alaska. And I did that for about 4 years, and then I figured I needed a retirement, and I joined it was Best Foods conglomerate, and I was a machine operator for there. And after 17 years, they were going to close the plant down. And one of my friends would go over to the HR department and talk to the girls, and he called me machine gun. And he said, yeah, he has a name on every bullet, which not. And so HR kicked me out and said, go see a shrink. And that's how I got on the road to the VA.
Has that been helpful for you?
Greatly. They medically retired me. The hard part I had was you couldn't walk away from a situation like when you're at work, If I could walk away from a situation, I was okay. But if I had to stay there, it just got pretty intense. And so when I was retired, I could walk away and I used to have a horrible, violent temper, but I'm very calm now. I stay very calm.
was about to say, I couldn't see you with a temper at all.
Uh,
Having only met you today.
oh, well, I used to scare the hell out of people. You know,
What sort of things have you done? Because obviously there's no one size fits all for anybody, but what sort of tools are in your toolbox to help deal with those stresses?
well, they gave me medication so I could sleep at night, instead of being sleep deprived. And they gave me stuff for nightmares. I still wake up sometimes on the floor or fighting, or sleepwalking. And of course, my wife, she, anytime I move, she'd grab me and pull me back in. And I'm afraid to say I would be fighting. And I'd go over this way and she'd be dead asleep and she'd stick up her hand and grab my fist. That was pretty scary. Then I got on the nightmare medication and I don't do it. But she could be sound asleep and feel me move and she'll grab me and pull me back into the bed. So it's, yeah.
Well, a couple other questions to wrap us up today. What do you want people to remember about the war in Vietnam based on your experiences there?
It was unwinnable. It was not made to be winnable. And we knew it. When I first come in the country, I swear you could smell the corruption. And then after about 3 months, I knew it was unwinnable. You take a hill, leave, come back, take the same hill. And I became very anti-war. I hated guns. And I kind of came back to screw the world and went solitary,
Now, in your military career, was there anybody who made a big impact on your life? Maybe a leader or a peer, one of your Marines?
Yes, it was basically a peer. He's a little older than me. He joined UDT, and then he went. They needed a corpsman, so he went to Corps School, and after Corps School, they put him in with the Marines. They needed corpsman, and he was in the year before me. And then after he got out of Vietnam, he went back and became a SEAL team member. And he took 3 tours in Vietnam and got all shot up. And he come back and they medically retired him. And I ran into him through a fellow corpsman. And he was probably the most instrumental in getting me back on course. We'd be talking on the phone for hours, and he'd call me. He'd yelling at me, and stuff like this, and it just, he really helped me.
And what's his name?
It was Doc Mike Hill. He was a career serviceman until he got wounded and couldn't do it. And his son became a SEAL, hospital corpsman, and a SEAL. And he was in Afghanistan, and he was like Tommy Frank's personal bodyguard, and very fluent in different languages. And so he saw a lot of action. He got shot up in Iran. So,
what a family.
Yes, it was. But Mike Hill really helped me, Doc Hill.
Now, is there any song that if you heard today would take you back to your days with Fox Company?
Well, not really, because I didn't listen to the radio, and not many people had any radio, so we weren't that way, So.
And lastly, do you have any final thoughts, words of advice for anybody who might be watching this in the future?
Well, make sure it's a just war, you know, because just to send people out there to fight for whatever is,
Senseless.
yeah.
Mike, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to share your stories with me today. It's really been an honor and pleasure meeting you, but most importantly, thank you so much for your service. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.